I mean, I thought I was really cool, like, look at me, I'm just a party animal or whatever. And friends would, call me Lush, or, I mean, that was my nickname. They'd call me Lush or Alky or whatever, and I just thought that was so cool. I thought, wow, they respect me.
Adolescence is a time when our bodies change, when our thinking changes, when our very selves change. It's no surprise that it's a period of both opportunity and risk. While the majority of young people make the most of the opportunity, many succumb to the risk. This program is about the risks of early adolescence, the years between 10 and 14. It's a period of great concern today to those who work with adolescents. We'll explore it through the eyes of two young people whose very lives were in danger. But they survived, thanks to their own inner resources and to a society that gave them a second chance.
We could find it downtown. I used to pimp beer all the time. I'd go up to people and, ask them if they would buy from me.
18-year-old Valerie lives in an affluent community. It's hard for her to pinpoint the beginning of her involvement with alcohol and drugs. She remembers sipping her parents' beer as a child, and she recalls some occasional drinking in the summers after the 6th and 7th grades.
I can't really remember the first times ever getting really drunk, but this time in 8th grade was probably the first time I've ever gotten that drunk. And I just came home and I was really upset, and I had been crying all night. My mom had asked me about it. She asked me if I was drunk, and I said no, and I'm just upset and stuff like that. And I was trying to pour my pop into this glass, and it was just spilling everywhere. I just had no control.
What happened afterwards comes out as a blur. Valerie remembers lectures about the damage alcohol can do to your liver. Someone else's liver, she thought, but not mine. She remembers being able to con her parents into believing whatever she said. She also remembers the night in the 9th grade the police picked her up, drunk.
That was the first time that my dad had told me that he lost all trust in me. And so that was really hard because my dad has always been really important to me. And to have him trust me and to have his love and stuff like that, when he told me, I just oh God, and it showed too. I mean, he was really angry, and I've never seen him that mad, never.
But her father was powerless to stop her. The summer after 9th grade, Valerie set herself a goal to get high or drunk every day. For a while, she monitored her progress with a written record, what she drank, when, with whom. Valerie reached her goal, and in the fall, she started high school, the 10th grade.
That's when I dropped a lot of my friends. One of my really good friends, she wouldn't do drugs as often as I wanted her to, or she wouldn't hang out in the smoking section where I wanted to hang out. And I started making different kinds of friends at high school. The friends that my parents were a little more cautious about. I never brought my friends home.
Just 2 years after Valerie got really drunk for the first time, she was taking any and every drug she could get her hands on. Alcohol and pot, codeine, diet pills, caffeine pills, amphetamines, PCP, mescaline, LSD, probably a dozen different drugs.
Really, I could get it anywhere. I'd go to parties and people would have it there. I'd get it from all over the place. One of my friend's parents got high, and we used to take it from them all the time. And the LSD and stuff like that, I got in downtown just from people on the street.
It was a fast, downward spiral. In the middle of the 10th grade, Valerie hit bottom.
In January, my grandma had died, and she was somebody that was really close to me, and I, really loved her a lot. And so the day I found out, or the day after I found out that she had died, I had gone over to my friend's house, and he had said, well, let's go get high. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And I had kind of in my mind decided that, I was going to quit for her. I wanted to stop doing drugs for her, and now that she, died, this was the way that I was going to show her that I loved her. And after that, it just went bang. It got worse. Sometimes it was twice a day. It really depended a lot. But mostly every day I was getting high at least once.
Valerie became seriously depressed and started thinking about suicide. She became, in her words, a zombie. Then, 4 months after her grandmother's death, Valerie's parents took action.
They sat me down one night, it's a Friday night, and they said, Valerie, we think you have an alcohol problem. We're not sure about any other drugs, but we think you have an alcohol problem. And, we're going to go somewhere tonight, and we're not going to tell you where, but we'll be back later on tonight. And if we decide to do anything, if we decide to put you in treatment or get you some kind of help, then we'll let you know, before we do it.
Frantic, Valerie called a girlfriend. She knew what was coming.
I said, I have a feeling that they're going to put me in treatment and, or they're going to do something. And she said, well, Valerie, we'll just stop doing drugs for a month or so, just make them, basically think that you're off them, and then we can start doing them again. And at that point, I just knew I couldn't even go a week without drugs. I mean, she said a month, and I was like, I can't even get through a week.
Valerie was in 8th grade when she got drunk for the first time. That may seem young, but according to Dr. Ruby Takanishi, it's not. Not for drinking, taking drugs, getting pregnant, committing crime, or any other way of getting a young life off track.
A case could be made for early adolescence, the years 10 to 14, as being crucial years of what we call heightened vulnerability, increased risk, and untapped opportunities. The general estimates are that approximately 75% of adolescents go through the period relatively easily, and about 25% of them are at risk and certainly do not make that transition very well.
Why is the period from 10 to 14 so critical? Dr. Takanishi suggests a number of reasons.
One is that some of the biological hormonal changes are occurring much earlier than they have in the past. And the society, I think, has not adapted to that change.
Puberty is coming earlier than it used to. In 1900, a girl's first menstrual period came on the average at 16. Today, as a result of improvements in nutrition and living conditions, it's 12 and a half. The trend for boys is similar, but harder to document. Biologically, children are growing up faster than they used to. But socially, it's taking them longer to achieve the status of an adult. The result is a lengthening no man's land of adolescence, a stage of life with few guideposts.
I also think that there have been changes in our communities and in families. These changes have really, I think, led to an erosion of support and supervision, and in some cases, stable relationships with adults, which are still very important during the early adolescent years.
Adult support is important because of a change in thinking that takes place in early adolescence. Research suggests that a sense of being immune to danger peaks around the age of 13 or 14. Young people believe someone else may get pregnant, but not me. Someone else may be hurt by alcohol or drugs, but not me. And today, that kind of thinking is even more dangerous than it was before. There are heavier doses of sexuality in the media. Life-threatening substances are easier to come by. Young people find themselves confronted with choices at an age when it's most difficult to choose wisely. And if they make the wrong choices, adult support will be even more important. All through adolescence, the influence of parents is ongoing and critical. Sometimes it takes a firm hand, like the one that brought Valerie to treatment and kept her there.
I called my mom one day and I said, I was telling her, I was like, I want to pull from the program. I want to leave. I don't want to be there anymore. And she said, Valerie, if you leave, you're out with what you have on your back right now.
There's also evidence that older adolescents who have been through a difficult experience can help younger ones. It's called peer counseling, and it helps Valerie.
Just seeing what other people had, seeing like the counselors and stuff like that, what they had, and because they had all gone through the program too, the counselors, and I really thought, God, they have something that I want, and so I decided to stay.
Valerie stayed for 12 months of treatment and 6 months of aftercare.
sometimes I still think it's a miracle that I got through that program because there were so many times I was so close to leaving. But there was a part of me, too, that knew I needed some kind of help.
Research is showing that young people at risk benefit from a close relationship with a parent or some other consistent, caring adult. They can also learn from respected individuals among their peers. But for a growing number of adolescents, there's an additional burden: poverty. This is Richard Jesser.
Part of growing up poor is to develop a perception of very limited opportunity, that it's very hard to make it, and that removes one of the main motivations for trying to work, trying to finish school, and so on. And it removes one of the main controls against getting involved in the street culture, which can easily compromise a young person's life.
Out on the street, there are some hard choices.
Some of those choices are, to some extent, for some young people, irretrievable. Dropping out of school is one of those things. It's hard to get back into school. If you don't complete an education, that forecloses certain possibilities. Getting pregnant and bearing a child is another example. Getting a criminal record is another example. Now, what's so impressive about young people is that despite this essential irretrievability, many of them do supervene. Many of them do overcome. Many of them do manage to make it.
They make it, says Jesser, because of their own inner resources and because society helps.
It has to do with programs of work. It has to do with programs that tie a young person to an adult, a mentoring program, provide young people with opportunities to assist others so that they become engaged in socially productive, socially responsible activities and get rewards from those instead of dissipating their energies.
Jesser believes we need to keep two things in mind when dealing with the critical transition of early adolescence.
One is the resources that young people have. The other is the need for society to give young people a second chance and a third chance. Any society which is only a first chance society is failing in its responsibilities to its people.
You know how they say people can remember all the bad times, but they can't remember the good times? That's how I remember all the bad times. I picture my mother, father arguing, fighting, and then I picture myself always, in my room crying or something like that.
Sometimes Tony cried. Sometimes he got mad. But mostly he didn't talk. Today, Tony is an 18-year-old high school senior, and he talks all the time. He can spend entire nights talking to his girlfriend. Looking at his early life, he says, is like looking at a television screen, almost like watching someone else. The pictures never stop coming. Many are of his mother.
Like one time, she pushed me down the stairs. I broke my arm and stuff. She had said the dog had pushed me down the stairs. I broke this arm. And I remember, like, my father had his favorite suit. I mean, I'm like, what could a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, or 7-year-old do with a big old suit? Okay, my mother was cheating on my father, and she gave it to one of her boyfriends, I guess. And she said maybe my friends and us did something with it. That's what she told my father. And he whooped me real bad for it. Whooped me real bad.
When Tony was 8, his parents divorced, but things didn't get better with his father gone. They got worse.
My cousins moved in. It was like 6 people, 7 people staying in one little house. It was like, I was like the littlest, boy there, and I'm following everybody else footsteps.
Tony learned to do what they did. It began with taking candy from a store or loose change from a table. He wanted to be accepted by his cousins, so it helped them out. He could slip through a milk chute and unlock an empty house for them to burglarize, while his mother waited out in the car.
I knew what was right, I wanted to do what was right, but it's like you be around it. It's like my mother, she would, be doing things that was wrong, like smoking marijuana, drinking, and she taught us how to, go out and steal things, and, do things wrong.
When Tony was 11 or 12, he and his cousins were arrested for breaking and entering. More arrests came later, in greater danger.
I was with my cousins, and I stole this car. I was 14 there too, messing around with it, trying to start it up. So this guy came with a gun. So I did something, just backed up, went out, and he started shooting at me. And I came out to the street like that. Big old truck just hit it. I can remember it's me getting out and just running.
By this time, Tony knew he had to run. He tried several times to run away from his mother, but it didn't work. So he found another way to escape. He deliberately got arrested and became a ward of the state. Tony spent the next 18 months in a juvenile detention facility. He went to a nearby high school, got good grades, and was happy. Then his mother remarried and asked him to come back home. She said she had changed. Tony missed her, so he said yes. Then came a major turning point.
She was drunk. Totally drunk. She started pushing me around and stuff. And I tried to, just get out. Then she went in the kitchen with a knife. And, then she tried to, stab me and things. But my cousin snatched me in the room, closed the door, and she was, trying to get the knife through the door. My cousin grabbed her by her wrist, and he told me to leave. I left.
When Tony came back, he found his stepfather waiting.
He was, pushing on me and everything. He hit me and stuff. I got so mad, I just wanted to hurt him. So I left and I went on my cousin's house. And he had a 9mm, something like that, 9mm. And he's like, well, if I was you, I'd try to scare him, So me and him went back over there. We was on our way back over there. Then we got stopped by the police. And I had a gun on me.
Tony was sent to a more restrictive detention facility. There, the approach was to create peer groups in a tightly controlled environment.
I got to know my group. We basically did everything together. If one person wanted to go to the bathroom, all 9 other guys got to go to the bathroom with you.
At first, Tony didn't feel accepted, but over the months, the program called for him to assume a position of leadership.
You had to run the group. You had to tell the group what to do, lead them through their daily process. You help them out with their problems. You don't cause problems, And if this guy got up or did something, you had to restrain him or something like that. And that's what a group, leader, he helped the group out, didn't lose his poise,
Did you get good at it?
Yeah, I got good at it. I finally started leading the group, going to school. I'd be like, check yourselves, get in line, all this type of stuff. It made me feel, pretty good.
Tony got good enough that he was considered ready for release after 7 months. But where could he go, and who would have him?
You just got to take a chance. Everybody takes a chance. We take chances. I take kids into this program who roll down the streets and make $2,500 a day rolling drugs. But I'll take a chance that they might make it.
Pamela Cuthbert is the coordinator of a program for people like Tony, adolescents between 16 and 19 years of age, mostly young men, but some women, youngsters who've been in trouble, who've been locked up, and who need something else after their release.
I've learned that this is their last chance, literally their last chance. I've learned that these kids are awfully scared. They have been in bad family situations from the jump. They didn't ask for what they got. They certainly haven't always helped the process. It seems to, start to roll like a big, huge snowball going down a hill, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until society steps in and does something. But at the point that we step in and get involved is at the point at which that particular kid has said, somebody has got to help me. Somebody has got to stop what's happening to me.
Through a contractual arrangement with the state, Cuthbert's agency was running a program of independent living. Each young person in the program was working and living on his own in the community. Each was receiving some financial support and a lot of supervision from the agency. Tony and Pam would have to meet. Both would have to decide that the program was right for him.
I was dressed up, real Smithy and stuff. So, and I was pretty nervous at first talking to Pam, and she was telling me about the program, independent program, and I was thinking like, yeah, this would be cool for me,
Some of these kids will come in and just sit across from you and parrot back what they have learned through the system to say and be absolutely nothing but this hard shell. We call it fronting, okay? And fronting simply means I'll tell you what you want to hear, but it may not be what I feel. But Tony was different. Tony had that kind of a sense about him that when he was talking to you, he was talking from the heart. And I didn't want to lose this kid. There's just no way I wanted to lose him.
It was in the spring, just about a year ago, that Tony started out in the independent living program. He was 17. The first month was rough. It's when a lot of Pam's charges run off. But Tony got through it.
Pam helped me out a lot, I always wanted to go to school. I kept telling her I want to go to school. Went to summer school, and I got an A- in government. I was like, dang. So that would really made me think about, well, you can do something in school.
Tony also decided to play football. He had always been good at running, and that fall he ran a kickoff back for a touchdown. Almost.
I thought about it before halftime. I was going to run a big play. It's like I was just sitting there thinking about the ball coming to me and I'm going to run a big play. It happened. They kicked it off the second half. I can't see it because it was up in the lights. And it came out, hit me in my hands. So I fumbled it, and it went all the way back up the ends. I picked it back up and ran it 87 yards.
Great.
It was like watching my kid just tearing down the field, running towards a goal, which was scoring a touchdown for Tony. And then somebody caught him 3 yards to the end. I wish Tony could have taken that ball in instead of someone else.
Someone else did take the ball in, and that was all right with Tony. He had a special attitude.
It was never I, me. He never sat and talked about the great plays that he made or the great runs that he did. But it was always constantly going up and down that line of all those guys and saying something to each one of them. It was always that constant team player. That's unique with a kid.
Unique, perhaps, but not hard to explain.
Tony wants a family, He doesn't want to have a family right now. He wants to be mothered and fathered and be a part of a family unit. All these kids do.
And that makes times like Christmas difficult. School's out, football's over. No presents from home, and little money to buy presents for someone else.
And at that point in time, Tony would come to me and he'd say, I'm just going to give it up. I'm more comfortable in the streets. I know I can make it there. And that's when it's that extra little push, shall we say. Come on, I'll go to the mountain with you. And you can do that with Tony and he'll be okay.
I'm doing good in school, but I'm not doing so well in school. I want to do better. I know it's hard. It'd be times I just want to say, well, I'm not going to school today. I just want to, just go to sleep. Then I tell myself, if I do that, what will happen? And then I have my girlfriend say, well, you can't be doing that. You got to go to school. Because she's like a straight A student. She'll only get like 1B probably. That makes me feel good because, that made me, I got to get good grades because she gets good grades. So it always makes me strive for more. And I tell myself, you're going to school, you're going to, Make something out of yourself.
After he graduates from high school, Tony's going to college. Financial support from the agency will end when he turns 19, but not his relationship with Pam. Sometime this summer, Tony will have to say goodbye to his girlfriend. And sometime in the future, perhaps many years from now, he'll have to come to terms with his mother and his family.
You know what? I don't even look at my mother or my family no more. I like totally ice them out right now. I'm doing something for myself. You can wait. Okay, that's how you can wait. Used to be, I wasn't important, but now I feel I'm important. So that's the most important thing in my life right now is myself.
It's been a year since Tony got his second chance and started to run with it. He's far from reaching his goal, but he's come a long way. How does any young person recover from a painful start in life and overcome those problems that seem to emerge in early adolescence, those years from 10 to 14? The young have tremendous inner resources, more than most of them realize. But those who do overcome do so with the help of peers who have made it, with the involvement of parents and other caring adults, with the programs that are part of a second chance society. When you try to help young people at risk, you may lose more than you win. But how can we afford not to confront young women like Valerie? And how can we afford not to find young men like Tony?
I just got my report card back. I got, 2 B's, A, and 3 C's.
Just kidding.
Yeah, just got it back last week.